So this is a little class. I'm so excited because I love this technique. It's called shibori, which is usually used on fabric, and it's a Japanese style of folding and dyeing fabric. But this I like to do on paper. You can use tissue paper, just plain tissue paper is fine. I haven't tried it on regular what's this stuff called? Typing paper. I don't know how it would be on that. But thin papers, like this is a rice paper, and it's just basically the folding techniques. And I'm going to share with you the folding that I did to make these today. And I'm also going to try doing it with watercolors. These are with acrylics, thinned out acrylics, but you can use watercolors, dyes, food coloring, anything. So the paper that I'm using is this stuff. It's just a rice paper. This one's a 12 by 18 sheet, which I like the large sizes because I can make wrapping paper out of it. And that's what is so beautiful. But you don't, if you don't have rice paper, I would suggest getting it only because we will do a lot of things with the rice paper. We just do a lot of things in this club. So this one's a 12 by 18. And it's kind of thin, which I like. It's a little on the thin side, but any type of rice paper will work. I today, for simplicity's sake, I cut these sheets in half. So now they're 12 by whatever they are, 12 by 9. But I just basically cut them in half. So I have plenty to work with. And you don't have to, watch me fold, boringly for so long. The other thing you need is just some colors. Keeping it really simple because shibori is just gorgeous on its own. So to make an indigo, this is the stuff I used this morning. It's golden, and this is just a fluid acrylic, high flow actually. And these are very highly concentrated. And I use mostly blue with a touch of the magenta, only because the phthalo blue would tend to be a little on the kind of aqua side when it's thinned. So just to get that indigo, you add a little magenta to it. And that would be in any of your colors. Like I haven't tried these yet. These are Dr. Martin's Hydrus watercolors. Same color, the same. I have phthalo blue and I have some blue aqua. So I think it'd be fun to try it with that. And I thought too, as well, I noticed that my blues weren't dark enough or they weren't indigo enough. So I'm just going to try a tiny touch of black to see if I can get that indigo tone. But what you also need is so you have basic colors. Water is good to have, a spray bottle, a little brush, some dishes, like if you have little tiny dish saucers like this, a spray bottle, and really important are gloves. You're going to need that after when you start dyeing your paper. So, and some paper towels. So to start though, we won't even touch the paint for a little while. The first thing I want to show you is the folding techniques to get these really interesting patterns. So I'm going to take this rice paper. I'm going to see if I can get my table. Let's see if I can get it closer. No, that way. Okay. So I want to make sure I fold this for you. Now, you can do this with any size paper. If you have a large sheet of tissue paper, full size, those are about 18 by 24 or 24. I think they're about 18 by 24 inches. That's fine. You can do the same thing. So I'm going to show you a really fun, just a basic fold. And this is an accordion fold that I love to do because you can do this over, it could be a large sheet of paper and you can still get these folds really accurate and really small. So the first thing you do is you fold the paper in half. And this is actually a book artist named Hetty Kyle. If you know who she is, look her up if you don't. She's an amazing, she does a lot of origami-inspired folded books. And her style of making these accordion folds was sort of where I got this idea. So I've got my first fold. And then I'm just going to take this, now I have a mountain. So if I turn it over, I've got a mountain. Or it could be a wave. So this would be the shore, the top. And I just bring my wave up to the shore, and I just match that fold, and then I crease. And then I could bring this bottom piece up to match that. And this is the first part of this. You can make the most accurate fan folds and the most delicate ones doing this. So what I do then is now I have these 3 folds, and I'm going to make all of them mountain folds. I'm just going to reverse this fold here, and I'm going to reverse that one. So now I have 1, 2, 3. I have 3 waves that need to go up to the shore. It's really fun to do this. So you just take you bring your paper edge, or that folded top, that folded edge, and just bringing it up to this to match it, and then I'm going to crease underneath. Same thing, bring the second one up and crease, and bring the third and crease, and then bring that last one up. This can go, you can get the finest accordions this way. So now I've got my little accordion, and I'm going to reverse all of the folds into mountains, which is really basically every other fold. And this rice paper is pretty durable. That's why I like working with rice paper, because you can fold it and wet it and do all kinds of things, iron it, and you still, it stays strong. If you're working with tissue paper, just be mindful that it's going to be more delicate. But still, you can get this, you can do the same thing with this tissue paper. So now I've got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got 8 sections, and I'm going to do the same thing. I've got my little waves. I'm just going to bring them up to the shore. It's kind of peaceful. It makes me think of the beach, going to the beach, which I miss. It's going to crease. I've done this with a long sheet of paper when I do something I call the Blizzard book, which is Hetty Kyle's design. This is, you can use this width of paper by a very long sheet. So you can do the same thing with long strips of paper. And just keep that paper sort of hanging off your table, and then just bringing it up in this fashion. Normally I'm a lot faster at this, but because it's not close to my stomach, I usually have this really close to my abdomen, and then I have it kind of right close, and I can go much faster, but I'm trying to make sure that you see this. So I'm kind of making sure that the camera is in front of the camera. So it's a little bit harder for me to go fast, but you can do this really fast if you want. So I could do one more fold. I could keep it like this, which I think would look really nice, but I think one more would even look nicer. One more pass. But I'm going to just leave it like this for now. And what you do is you can wet. I'm just going to leave this because I've got some other ways to fold. I want to get all my folding done before I start dyeing the paper, because you don't want to once you start dyeing, it becomes a messy operation. So what I could do now is I could actually fold this in half this way, the long way. It's going to be a little more bunched up, but that's okay. Just fold it in half lengthwise, and just kind of get all your folds so that they're kind of, you want everything to just lay inside each other. You don't want pieces sticking out. And then I'm going to bring this one up to here, just like bring this end up here. And this is a gorgeous, this will look really gorgeous when we do the dyeing part. And then this part here. So I'm basically creating an accordion going the other way. I can just get this. This is the part where when you're working with this, I'm not doing it right. There we go. Just get this evenly right here, this way. And you can actually dampen your paper if you want to just dampen it a little bit, especially with the rice paper, you can get away with this. If you dampen it, it is a little easier to fold into compact sections. I just spritzed it a little bit with my spritzer. I can see there's some wrinkles there, but that might make it look really interesting. And then I've got that section. And now what I'll do is one more time. So I've got I've got 4 sections, but I want this to go into 8 sections. So I'm just going to accordion fold this into 8 sections just by reversing those folds. And because it's a little thicker than when I was doing it the other way, I'm just going to kind of do it this way, kind of meandering fold. So now I've got this nice little compact thing here, and I'm going to wet it. And because I'm wetting it, it's going to stay a little bit nicer in that spot. And I didn't bring my clamps, but normally I would clamp these things down. Let's see, I do have some clamps. I'm going to grab those just shortly. You can use any of these kinds of clamps, like these little. Of course, I can see my fibers are starting to come off, so I have to be careful. I'm handling it a little too much. So I'm just going to let that sit, and then I'm going to do another fold, so you can have several. Oops, so now I've got a wet table. That's okay. I'm going to bring this over. The thing about this paper is it will withstand wet, so that's a good thing. I'm going to just make sure I don't have a wet table while I'm folding. So now I'm just going to fold this paper in a different way. I'm going to do the same thing where I basically fold it in half. You can try different types of folds. And then I'm going to bring these covered folds to the center, kind of like we're doing origami. And then now I have these mountain folds here. And I'm just going to do the wave to shore, which is folding it up. So just basically folding it in 4 sections lengthwise. And okay, so now I have this little thing here. Now I could actually try something different. You could take it like a flag fold, where you can take your corners and fold them in an angle here, like this, and then just turn it and fold it. It's like folding a flag. But you just want to kind of meander it up the strip here. And this will give you another sort of look. And you'll see them when we make the die. So I'm just kind of going to go through the length of this paper and just kind of do this angled flag fold. And it's not perfect, but it doesn't matter, because the paper or the ink will absorb amazingly into this. So there's that one. And if there's a little bit hanging over, just like I have here, I'm just going to just take that little bit and put it like that. So now I've got like a little triangular shape. So there, we've got that. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to wet that down just so to kind of keep its shape. Just set it to the side for a sec. All right, let's see another one. I'm going to do one more because I want you to see 3 different examples. And it's probably good if I wipe my table down, because I've got lots of water on there now. So really, when you're working with doing this, just prepare your folds ahead of time, and then you'll be prepared to make messes. All right, so now I'm just doing the same thing. I'm going to fold it in half. There's other ways you can do this. You could wrap this around a cylinder and scrunch it down, but you really need something. You need really strong paper, which you definitely would have to use the rice paper for that. Or fabric. You can do this with fabric, and you can do so many more things with the fabric because it's going to be a lot stronger, more durable. So I'm just going to do the same thing. Reverse my folds here. Just basically trying to get different looks. So this one here, I'm going to do a real small accordion. And one thing I don't have on me, and I wish I did, was if I had an eyedropper, that would be really handy to have. Instead, I'm going to use a paintbrush to paint some paint on or some color on. But an eyedropper would even be better, because you can get more of the color into the fibers of the paper. So here, I'll do this, and this is a really relaxing thing to do. Just creating folds and experimenting with different things. One thing that shibori is different from tie-dye, it sometimes is confused with tie-dye, and tie-dye is a twisting kind of folding, and not folding so much, it's more twisting of fabrics. And shibori is folding. That's the difference. the main difference. There's probably other little, I'm sure there's a lot different I'm sure the nuances that I'm not telling you now that I don't know, but I definitely know that the shibori is more of a folding, but there's some crinkling that you can do too with the fabric. It's so gorgeous. You can use this for book covers. You can use it for gift wrap, collage, greeting cards, all kinds of things. You'll find that you have many uses for it. If you use the watercolor, it will, I'm not sure how it will stay into the paper, but with the acrylic inks, you'll definitely know they're not going anywhere. So I'm going to do one more accordion here. And if you want your paint lines to go this way, then you would fold it the other way. There's just so many different ways we can do this. I think it'd be fun to try this with colored tissue paper. And I have a feeling that since the dyes of the tissue paper would probably bleed terribly, so that just might be interesting to take some tissue paper with colors and do this technique and watch how they bleed with the new colors that you're putting in. Might be fun. Something to try with all the time we have on our hands. So I'm going to do one more layer here, or one more fold. And when it gets a little narrow like this, the piece will get really thin, but it's going to look so neat. See how it's about 5/8 of an inch of an accordion. I think you might see it there. And I'm just going to bring all these so that you can, there we go. I think it'd be fun to take origami paper too. Some of that use-in washi. Any of the washi papers that have the fibers in them would really work well for this. Or fabric, just cotton, some cotton fabric. An old pillowcase would be fun, an old white cotton pillowcase. I think it'd be fun to try that. And if you do a pillowcase or fabric, of course, use some kind of permanent. Don't use watercolors. You would use a fabric dye or acrylics. But acrylics will kind of leave a crunch, make it kind of crunchy because it has the polymer in it. So some dyes would be really nice. Some indigo dye, which is the traditional color that they use. See how narrow this is? It's like a little tiny little accordion. This would be the most stunning when it's done, I think. Because the more fine you get, you'll just get some incredible intricate patterns. And if I were really ambitious, I would even do another accordion, a tiny one, and see how that would work. But I think probably so I don't bore you to death with this folding part, I think maybe this is as far as I'll go. Okay. It's funny, back when I did the Carol Duvall show, which I happened to talk to her this weekend, she's doing really good. We would always have to be prepared with step outs, like 5 different versions of the project in completion, and just for time, for TV, for the length of the segment that we were doing. And so part of me kind of wants to have that stuff ready, but then we're doing something real time so that you can do it too. So I guess that just a different way. Okay, so I'm almost there. Now you're going to get to make the colors, make a mess. So one more little accordion. And then that's the last one. So now I've got this amazing little thin, amazing little accordion. And I'm just going to leave this one like this, I think, for now. Just going to leave it like that, or I could fold it. But I'm just going to leave it for now. But I'm going to wet it down so that it will hold its shape a little bit better. I could fold it, but we'll see. Okay. Just going to put it aside for a sec. Then we'll get to the fun part. All right, folding's done for now. And let's have some fun. Okay, I'm going to do the indigo in this plate because it's kind of messy. And this time I'm going to put a little bit, oh, and gloves. Please, I've got to put gloves on. The paints, acrylic paints don't normally stain that much, but I'll tell you, the blue, it was hard to get out. I had it all over this table about 2 hours ago, and it was not fun to get out. So make sure you wear gloves, especially if you're using dyes. So with these paints, these are they're called. They have you have to shake them until you hear the ball. There you go. So that I hear that ball, that I know it's mixed because they do settle. And same things with these. I don't think these have the balls in them, but I see that the pigment is really settled on that. So I don't know how. I have to shake that a lot, but that's a good way to get your exercise. So what you want to do is you want to add your water first. If you're going to thin out your colors, which these are pretty concentrated. So add your water first, because I've learned that if you don't add water first and you want to add it later, you may end up getting a lot more color splashing around than you want. So it's just good to add your water first. So I've got about a quarter, I don't know, it's a very small amount of water in there. And I'm going to just add the blue first. And to make the indigo color, which this is a phthalo, I'm going to add the blue, and you can see how intense that is. Really intense. And what I'm going to do is just add a touch of magenta. You don't want much. Just, I'd say 1, 2 drops, just 2. And I'm going to add this is going to be I'm just going to swirl it around. Now it's a nice color, but it's still not dark enough for me. So I'm thinking if I just add a touch, now this could ruin it, but we'll see. I'm just going to put a drop, 2 drops, very small amount, and see if that gives me a better, more indigo look. And it does. It kind of makes it, I like that color. I think that works. It's that's a pretty concentrated, wow. And I might just go ahead and add just a touch more of this magenta. You could just kind of test it and see what works, because against the white of the bowl, I can kind of see what I'm doing. I add 1 more drop. And I may concentrate it up a little bit. Ooh, yeah. So adding that magenta gives it that depth that I'm looking for. I'm just going to add some more of this. It does, the technique's going to soak up a lot of this paint. You'll be surprised. So that, I think, 1 more drop of that. And I think we're good. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so now I'm going to close my little tops here so that I don't forget, because later, I could shake them and go, oops, I didn't, the top was off or it wasn't on, correct? Okay, here we go. So this is the fun part. So you take let's see, I'll take the first one that I folded, this little guy, this one. And I can dampen it more if I want to, or I can just, I might dampen it because I like soft edges. So if you want soft edges, soft, lines and edges, you would dampen your paper. And you just kind of squeeze the water into your little module here. And now the dipping part, the fun part. So I'm going to just dip it in one side in a quick dip. See how quickly that soaked it up. And it would do the same, and that's the color I was looking for. So that's really nice. I'm going to dip this, just a super quick dip. You don't want to leave it too long because then it'll just soak all the way through. So that's this one. That's just a simple, I'm just going to leave it like that. And I'm going to let it sit for a second. And what I could do too is blot out some with the paper towel. I just kind of blot a little bit so it's not soaking wet. And I'm going to show you how gorgeous that's going to look. So I'm going to just unfold it right now, move this out of the way, and you'll see how it's so satisfying to open this up. I'm going to move that out of the way. So I'm going to just open this guy up, and you'll see how gorgeous this one looks. Yummy. I love that. So when you're opening your paper, just open it really slow, because it is delicate while it's wet. It's much more delicate. But once it's dry, it won't be so delicate. That turned out beautiful. I like that one. So now for a bigger, if I'd had a bigger sheet, then I'd have more paper to work with. But that's the size. That's it. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm going to put that aside, and it's good to lay it flat somewhere. Or if you have a like a hanging, something to hang your papers on, that's great. But I'm just going to set mine on my floor. I've got some papers on the floor, kind of laid out, so I can do that. And now let's try dipping the second one. This is the fan one, or the whatever this is called. Yeah, the flag. Same thing. I'm going to just slightly dampen with my water. I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to dip. Actually, oh, you know what? I'm going to put this aside for a second. I want to try the watercolors because I wanted you to see how that works. So I'm going to do this. I'm just going to stick a little bit of watercolor. And these are cool because they have little droppers. I'm just going to get some color in there. If it would work, come out, come out. Well, it's not happening. So much for that. It is stubborn. All right, that's not working. I'm just going to pour it in. And I won't use a whole lot because, there we go. See if I have better luck with the other colors. I think I'm going to try this turquoise. It's called Blue Aqua. We'll see. Try something different. Maybe I can get some color. No, it doesn't want to come out. So just drop it in. And I think this would be gorgeous, this phthalo blue. And I'm going to stay away from the magenta and just see what happens. Because definitely the Shibori, it seems like the cool colors look really good. So now I've got 3 colors there, and let's see what happens. So I'm just going to dip really quickly the yellow, maybe on the corners really fast. So I've got yellow on the corners. And then since I can't dip, I'm going to have to use a brush now. So I'm going to just brush on, and this is a way you can do more targeted colors. Just going to brush this kind of turquoise color. And then maybe on this, I think on all 3 sides, I'm going to do it. Just getting it in there. Same thing on this side. So you can just play with how you're going to put the colors on. Okay, so now I've got 3 sides here. Now I'm going to take this blue, and I'm going to do it like right in between these. You can see how I'm doing this, right? I hope you can see that. I'm just going to take that and just put the blue kind of in between and let it mix with the yellow, because the yellow by itself is kind of boring. It's still pretty, but I need a little oomph. So I can put some, just kind of let it go in there into the fibers. That's going to be pretty. So these are the Hydrus watercolors. So that's what's nice. What's nice about the watercolors is they'll wash out of your hands easier, and hopefully they won't stain too much. So now I could spritz it with a little water to really let those colors, see how they're not blending that much, but you can spritz it with water, and then take your paper towel and just just kind of squish it all together. Let's see how it unfolds. And I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to see how it unfolds. So we've got my little wad of stuff there. Now I'm just going to unfold it. Now see how it didn't soak in? It's an okay effect, but I want a little more. I'm just looking at it before. It didn't soak in that much, and it's because I didn't really wet my paper that much. But actually, I'm just going to leave it. Just it's the way it's supposed to be. But if I wanted it to be more blended, then what I would have done is I would have wet this thing a lot more, so that the colors would go in. But ooh, that's going to be fun. Ooh, fun, fun, fun. So this looks really cool, I think. So yep, that's fun. And I'll set that aside and let it dry, but here it is. So you can see that's that pattern so that's how you get this sort of, it looks more tie-dyed to me than the other. Okay, now the one that I really like is going to be this one. And this one I'm going to do with the blue because I think that's just lovely. So this time I'm going to wet it a little bit more on both of these sides. Just kind of get in there, get that paper wet. And I'm going to take, in this case, I'm going to do something a little different. Of course, I've got paint from the other here, but that's okay. All right, you can dip it, which is not very controlled, or you can do something where you can use your brush or an eyedropper or anything like that. I'm just going to fold it in half this way, just to kind of get. Oops. Let me get this folded in half. There we are, like that. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going to just squish this together like this, and then I'm going to take my brush, which I have watercolor in it, and I'm going to try to rinse all that out. And I'm going to get this brush and I'm going to fill it with the blue paint. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to drop, oh, let's see. I'm just going to do something, just paint color on it. I'm just putting color on. This is something trying differently. On this side, I'm going to just put the color on like about an inch apart. And I'm just dropping it right on there. And then on this, when I see I don't have all the, so you want to get it all in all of the creases, or basically on all the edges. This is just an experiment. I want to see how it works. That's what's fun about this. You can just play with your, figure out, try different things. Okay, so I'm going to just turn, and then I'm going to turn it over, and I'm going to do it on the opposite. So I'm going to do on this side here, and I'm going to do it on the ends. Just want to see what happens, because I think you can alternate the sides and it will give it a totally different look. So I'm going in between what I had before. I'll just kind of hit that as well. And the more paint you put in, the more color you'll have on your piece. We'll just see what happens. And what I could do too is maybe just brush it just in between a little bit. So I just wanted to see how that works. I'm going to just drop a little here. Okay, I'm going to let that squish it together with my paper towel. Who knows what it will look like. And you want to squeeze the excess color out anyway, just so that it's easier to unfold. So now we'll see how this looks. That's interesting. Oh, so there is another pattern that kind of was created out of that. That's kind of fun. So you can see what kind of, I think that one that I really like, the one I showed you earlier, which I'll bring out in a second, it's the same fold where I made a very small accordion and I dipped it on either side and it made just more stripes rather than these little dots. But I kind of think that's fun. So I'm going to get that out and I'll show you. This one here, so that pattern was done by dipping it just straight instead of what I painted it on. But this pattern was done by just that same fold, but I dipped it either side just straight on. So that's how you get that. That one I like. This one's fun. And what you could do too, let's say you want to do another pattern and you can wait for this to dry and just fold it again and do another pattern. So that is that. I can do another one. Does anybody want to see another one? Or do you want to stop and see how you're doing, or would you like me to fold a different pattern? Let me know. You can give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I'm okay. Okay, we'll do another one. So I'm going to take my gloves off, and I have a little trick about gloves. So you know how you take your glove off and they're inside out? Well, then I just turn them. I try to turn them inside out, and I blow right into them, and I'll show you. This is funny. That you get them back. You get your glove back so that you don't have to throw away. You can use your gloves over and over. That's how I do that. Okay, I'm going to fold some more here. Let's see, it would be fun to try something different. Definitely the accordions are much more effective because you'll get that the edges are much more, you have many more edges for the paint to go into. And this time too, the next one I'm going to add a lot more color because I think it's a little soft, which is not a bad thing, but I'm just going to add some more color. And then it'd be interesting to see the difference between the acrylic and the watercolor, how they dry, because acrylics never fade lighter and watercolors do. So it will be interesting to see that dry when the watercolor dries. If you want things to dry fast, you can hit it with a hair dryer. If you don't want it to dry fast, just hanging it up on clothespins, or laying it flat on a table with some paper protecting your table, because there is there might be some bleed through, which if you squeeze out your paint well enough, you probably won't, but you just don't want to chance it, especially with acrylics. So I'm going to go ahead and this time I won't make as thin or as narrow of a design. I'm just going to do this, which is about a little less than an inch wide. Really, it's like taking your time. Folding is really important. It gives you a better design when it's over. I'm just practicing that. I think it'd be fun to do this with food coloring too, if you just had food coloring laying around. But of course, food coloring will not last. It will fade really fast. And so this one, I'm just going to do a fold like this. And I think what I'll just keep it maybe like this, so you can see when I dip. Of course, I don't know how I'm going to get it in there, so I have to make it smaller. If you want to make something long, you can just have your ink in a longer tray, something where this is too, it needs to be short so I can get it in that. But if you want to have long, stripy patterns, then you would just put it in a shallow tray, your colors. One of those shallow butcher trays, or even a thing for you that you cook with. I'm just going to get my gloves back on. Blowing into my rubber glove. I don't know about you, but washing hands, because I'm washing my hands so much more this last year, I get a lot of little weird things on my hands. So lately I've been putting gloves on when I'm doing just normal activities, and I even wear those cotton gloves at night with lotion, and that has really been helping. All right, get that in there. Okay, this is gonna be fun, except I'm gonna add some more color. So you can see how much the color is being soaked up. So I probably made more color than I should have, but I wanted to make sure I had enough. But you can just calculate how much color will work for you, depending on what you're making. I like the swirling on this. Ooh, that's gonna be pretty. And I'm just gonna wet this a lot more. Oops, I have some magenta. I got magenta on me. Well, that'll be pretty. All right, magenta in the mix. I've got black too. Oh, that's right, because I just moved those paints. I'm going to go back in here and I'm just going to dip. I'm just going to drop it in there really fast. And then again, it just soaks it up really fast. The longer you leave it in there, the more the color will absorb. It's all just kind of experiment different ways. And then when you squish it, it will blend even more together. Okay, let's see how it looks. Ooh. Okay, we're going to unfold, the unfolding. And you could leave it like this for a little while if you want to dip a bunch, but it's nice to get it unfolded fairly quickly. You don't want it to dry like this. Now I see my colors went really far in there, but it's still going to have a pattern, which I think is lovely. Oh yeah. See how it's a very beautiful, oh boy. Each one's different. It's so great. We've got some of the white showing, but a lot of it is very subtle, much more subtle than the other ones because of the color had soaked right through. So there we go. That's going to be pretty. Just open that all out. So I would have liked to have achieved this on all of it, but it didn't happen, but that's okay. It's still pretty paper. And after you're done with this, you can, after it dries, you can use an iron if you want. You can even re-wet everything and iron it flat, or you can just leave it with the texture of the paper with the folds, which gives it a really nice, rich texture.